Aloha. I cannot contain my excitement right now because we are conducting the Mixed Asian Media Festivals. It's our first virtual festival, everything. And right now we're going to do the panel Native Hawaiian Narratives to the Front. Oh my gosh, I'm beaming right now. Look at the amazing people I have on right now. I'm going to introduce them to you all. My name is Kuya, aka Patrick Michael Strange. I am a host, producer, actor with the NRW Nerds Rule the World, as well as the Nerds of Color. Very prideful in my self and representation. What do I need to say? I want to give you some accessibility visual acknowledgement for everyone that's listening that this is something new for me, and I'm super proud of this. I love that the Manifest is doing this. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am joining you from the Washington, D.C. area. I am a mixed Filipino English man from living in the D.C. area. I have black hair, brown eyes, medium brown skin, and I'm streaming within my studio right now with a lot of geeky comic stuff all around me. I'm a super nerd. That is me, and I'm excited to be joined with some amazing talents here. I will have them each introduce themselves, but I have Barrie Kealoha, Jeff Aguiar, and TX Tario. I will pass it to Barrie to kick us off with a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Aloha kako. Hi, everyone. My name is Barrie Kealoha. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am currently in New York City on Muncie Lenape land, but I am repping the Kanaka Maoli for sure. I am wearing sort of a leaf green top. I have short brown hair to my shoulders. I'm wearing blue glasses. I have lavender headphones on with a admittedly fake red flower tucked into the right ear. And I am in front of, again, fake brick wall here in my apartment. And I'm delighted to be here.
Welcome. Love you. Love that you're here with us. Let me throw it to Mr. TX Tario.
Hello, my name is TX Tario. I'm originally from Honolulu, Hawaii. You can call me anything, any pronoun. I'm an actor, which means I shapeshift and transform. I have long hair. I have light brown skin. I'm wearing my Manaola Hawaiian t-shirt and a Zara sports coat, and I'm very happy to be here.
Yes, thank you. And of course, last but certainly not least, actor scholar Jeff Aguiar.
Mahalo. Aloha, everyone. My name is Jeff Aguiar, he, him, his. As Kuya mentioned, actor, scholar in peace and conflict studies, conflict resolution studies with a focus on arts-based approaches to peace building. And I also happen to work with my state arts council here in Raleigh, North Carolina as a funder. I work with grant administration, so helping connect artists and organizations to funding and money. And we currently reside on Skarure and Tuscarora land, and that is also shared and somewhat contested with with the Lumbee Nation. Here in Raleigh, I am coming to you from my office, which means that there are sort of institutionally colored walls behind me and a whiteboard. And I am what is often audio described as a racially ambiguous person with a beard that is showing a lot of age, aka gray, and freshly washed hair that looks very fluffy, with a faded black polo t-shirt in a desk chair.
I love it. I'll add to Jeff's. I'm the bald one out of the bunch since I didn't add that in my description. All the hair is gone because I'm getting old. I'm missing it. I wish I could have a little bit of Texas because Texas has some long, glorious hair as well as body.
It is luscious.
I love it. So welcome everyone. I don't know about y'all, but again, super excited. Especially for this festival in itself. I want to shout out all the organizers for putting this together as a mixed kid that just, never really fit into anything. To have something like the Mixed Asian Media Festival is just the best. If I talk about it more, I'm going to cry because it's just, it's hard to feel fit in sometimes because there's really nothing for us. And so having something like this is just amazing. And so let's get rolling with the Native Hawaiian narrative to the front. I want to say, because I didn't say it earlier, I'm actually of Filipino heritage. So I'm the islands by way of the Philippines. I'm not from Hawaii. Outside of the Philippine Islands, Hawaii is my other favorite set of islands. So I'm very honored to be a part of this Native Hawaiian narrative to the front with these amazing Hawaiians right here. So let's talk on that. Again, thank you, Barrie, Jeff, and Tex for being a part of this panel. Let's just talk about just the representation. This festival coming to you, being this beacon now that can show and highlight us. How is it that you kind of gained wind of this, and what do you think of just this festival in general at the moment, being a source for us to kind of share our stories?
Sure. Well, actually, I was recommended via a girlfriend of mine who is Filipina. And she reached out to me and she was like, oh my God, they're looking for all kinds of mixed people and they're looking specifically for Native Hawaiians. You should submit. And I was like, okay. I've never been a part of a panel like this before. And like what you said about, growing up mixed and not seeing yourself necessarily reflected in the people around you, or having your ethnicity assumed because of where you grew up. I grew up in Southern California, so I was pegged as, maybe she's Mexican, maybe she's Nicaraguan, maybe she's Guatemalan, so like it's having to kind of navigate that whole sphere. But it's nice to like be in a room of 3 people who look like me.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the social media sponsored ads got me. I used to be in marketing for the arts and stuff, and so social media is like a really strong tool for me. So I connected with HAPA, turned Mixed Asian Media, and I knew of HAPA when it was actually an in-print magazine, and that, like Barrie mentioned, was something that was really powerful for me as a person. Because while I do want to shout out Hilo Town, because that is where I am from.
Ew.
That's where I run into family at the grocery store, which is not an experience that I have all the time, because I live on the East Coast and I live in the American South. And so what's really thrilling about this particular festival is, one, I get to let a little bit of the pidgin into my talk, because that is not normal. So that gets to be in there. And then also, there's this interesting sort of racialized dynamic where things are very black and white in a real way here, and it's taken me a long time to even work through my own issues in terms of anti-blackness, and recognizing that while I may not be seen in that conversation, I may not be reflected in that conversation, I still have purchase in it, and I still have space that I can hold for myself, and that people that are accomplices and conspirators with me can hold. And so being able to be here and share my experience as a part of this festival, the inaugural festival, is amazing. And I'm gonna cry soon too. So I'm gonna pass it off.
This is a safe space, virtual hugs all the way around.
For me, I had originally written an article for HAPA back when I was in conservatory in New York City. Now that I'm finished, I'm living out here in LA, but a friend of mine from Hawaii had given me the information to get in touch with the people at MAMFest. And it truly is a blessing and an honor to be here, not only as a part Native Hawaiian and a mixed Asian human, but to perpetuate my culture, my heritage, to honor my ancestors and my family and the land from which I came from, and also the history, because not a lot of people are aware just of the similarities of the tension and I think some of the strain and stress that we're going through today in today's society, especially here in America, that it's very similar to what Native Hawaiians went through. So I think it's a good time to bring forth to the forefront not only Native Hawaiian representation, but representation for all cultures and ethnicities, that they should all be celebrated.
I love it. I love it. Thank you all for sharing that. I want to get to the nitty gritty. I have some questions that were part of the outline, so I want to kind of dig into that. And I love that all of us are all actors here, so I know we know how we have had to kind of chart that course as mixed actors of heritage and just the different, just to get on set and screen, just how difficult that is. So one of the first questions I had that was in the description was, what experiences have we learned and grown from, I would say throughout life, and then that we take into ourselves as actors? Barrie, let me throw it to you. Your experience getting into the business, and maybe if we can preface, if everybody could kind of just give us a lead in how you just got into it, what kind of dove you into the arts in a bit.
Sure. Well, I grew up doing musical theater from, age 5 or 6 or something like that. So I've been a part of this world for a very long time. And it's something that I am genuinely passionate about. Obviously, it's a very difficult industry, so you really have to have that pilot light on in some capacity or other, or it's just going to eat you up. So, one of the things I really grew from kind of happened in the last several years. As I said, growing up in Southern California, I got mistaken for a variety of ethnicities that I'm not, but I also speak fluent Spanish. So I kind of had to leverage that if I wanted to work, because I was never seen as a white girl. Clearly, I guess. I don't know. Even though the majority of my heritage is, Western European, as a lot of people who are Native Hawaiian ancestry, how many pure Native Hawaiians are there left really in the world? Not that many, right? But I've never been that white passing enough to play a white girl or somebody whose ethnicity isn't specified. So I kind of had to lean into like, oh, well, I guess I can pass for Hispanic or Latina or whatever. And I speak Spanish. So, it kind of worked out that way. But it never really sat right with me because, I'm sort of a peripheral member of that community. And I have tons of friends who are very supportive and they love me to pieces. But like, I can never truly be a part of that sphere, and with understandably why. But that was the feedback that I was getting. Casting directors, I would go in for a variety of roles, but the only ones I'd ever get called back for were Latinas, and you have to go where the work is. So I did that for a while. And finally, from a variety of sources, I finally kind of had to really look at that and say, is this okay? And it came down to a question of like, well, either I can the consequence of maybe never getting cast again. So I kind of had to make my own work, as a lot of us have had to. I'm hoping that kind of manifests itself in a productive way, but it's also kind of how I got back into voiceover, because it doesn't matter what I look like. And I do bilingual voiceover. So, obviously if the role calls for a native speaker of Spanish, that's not me. But so I do a lot of voiceover now, and I created my own show, Island Girl, all about my heritage. And so it's been a really nice way to like Tex was saying, kind of delve into that history and bring that to the forefront, and not really putting on the mask of whatever somebody else needs me to be, if that resonates with anybody.
Oh yeah.
And just trying to say, look, I am a mixed Hawaiian woman who speaks 3 languages, like Hawaiian woman. Like, maybe break out of your brain about whiteness being, the standard or the normal, or I can't be bothered with that, right? Thank you.
Definitely.
So that was kind of a real, not exactly a dark night of the soul, but something very close to it a few years ago. And I've been kind of, this is all part of it. Leaning into the Hawaiian.
Yes. Who wants to go next? Jeff? Go ahead, Jeff.
I will jump in. So I did all of the May Day performances at Kalihi Elementary and Makapu Elementary. I still remember a little bit of the ice. So I know that I've been a part of like cultural demonstrations and those kinds of performances for a long time. I was in band with Kailua Intermediate for 2 years, and that was like the big entry into recognizing, of course, today, I think for me is much more problematic than it was when I was 12 and 13, it was learning about where to place things and what the sounds meant. And so the arts have always had a draw for me. And it wasn't until we came here to North Carolina, and it was my junior year in high school, and I got involved with theater. And that made things come together in a way that was really interesting for me, because that was also Pi's reawakening, because around that time we were reading sort of recognizes that and realizes, it took place in 19th century provincial rural China. So it was very odd to me as we were reading that book, I started to see character in Kentucky and not at all geographically placed in the right space. So it was like at that moment that I started to look at my own features and realize that I have what I thought they were, because, when my mom married my stepfather, we traveled. There were a lot of things in my head that were kapakahi, right? Like just all twisted, ehu and everything. And so when I went my own sort of internal work, and that led to social justice work, led to two things together, make this revolutionary spin, reproducing somebody else's work. I love to do it. I love to be it. I love to embody those things. Yes, I love the attention too. I think that's in there, And so, like Barrie mentioned, I basically took jobs from people when I realized to be monetized. And it's complicated what perseverance looks like, because some days it's real tiring to be a trailblazer. Some days I am challenged, these that I have helped, in terms of like elbowing in to make lanes for comedic Asian tenors. It's what I do. And what I end up leaving behind sometimes is more opportunity than I ever experienced. And there are a lot of days that I'm not spiritual enough to deal with that. It takes a lot to get into a place of recognizing, what the cost and structure of leadership might look like. So I think it's for me, it's a combination of continuing to put one intent is, and then, also accepting the responsibilities and the accountabilities in relationship to both ancestry, right? So, Aumakua and how all of those influences enact themselves on my own pathway to, I don't want to use indigeneity, but that's the word that I have for today. I'm working on that in my scholarly work. Like, I'm tired of Eurocentric concepts. So I'm working to get rid of indigenous in my own vocabulary. But there are these interesting dynamics of like complicity and erasure and all of these things that come into play for a person that has to carry on, some sort of inherited or socially transmitted legacy. And so it can be really complicated.
Definitely.
Yes to that.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, they're really firing on all cylinders today, both Jeff and Barrie. And kind of to go off of what Barrie's experience was, enter at Diamond Head Theater, where I left Hawaii the senior year of high school to pursue other operating schools. So I was able to really learn my culture, my history, language, learn good Hawaiian values, and really crucial in shaping how I want. That came up throughout auditions in my lifetime, where I've been presented with, you're not this enough, you're not that enough, but I can't really control that. And it's my job as an actor, School of Performing Arts in the BFA acting program, is that I was able to dive into that and not really care and have the confine in seeing that you're a storyteller. And so for other people to box you in, let them do that, but you don't box yourself in. And so for me, with auditions, all I can do is put my best foot forward and really showcase whatever the description is. So just kind of utilizing this ambiguity to any audition after audition, just trying to put good work forward. But I think it definitely goes a long way to stay true to yourself.
Definitely. All right. Again, thank you all for sharing this, your experiences with us, because I know sometimes it can be hard when you're thinking back and reflecting just some of those struggles. And like Jeff was saying, a lot of points hit me hard. Being the first of that, that's so true. The next question in line is what has been or can be improved upon in regards to representation. I want to actually ask a question before we kind of answer that. Out today, as of this recording, Doogie Kameāloha is premiering on Disney Plus. I had the chance to speak with all the amazing actors in there. It's amazing for representation because they got so many Hawaiian actors involved and mixed Asian, just people of color in there. Highly suggest it. I'm not getting paid by Disney, just FYI for that, but I enjoy talking to the entire cast. But I'm hoping it does well, because I think if it does do well, all the actors here could possibly get roles. It just gives us another platform for us to get work. But one of the things, though, going along with that, so I'm hoping it does well, but I check out the Twitters, the IGs, I'm on there a lot. There's a lot of films that are happening, which is great, in shows, but then right now we are currently living in a pandemic. We're wanting to film, so it's kind of like a cross-22 I think at the moment with filming, but then if you look at, I have a lot of Native Hawaiian friends that are living there, a lot of foreigners and just a lot of tourists are coming and messing up the island. There's just so much going on. Do you because you guys are all Hawaiians and you have, I'm sure, probably have family there, how do you just feel about that with as actors, performers? I think it's great that we have shows that are now going to broadcast how amazing Hawaii is, such as Doogie, but then we're also living in a pandemic. It's kind of like, I don't know, I want success, but then I'm worried about all these tourists coming in and messing up the island. Do you feel a certain way about that? I apologize if it's kind of straight from the question, but it's important, right? Like, do you feel conflicted?
I think it's great that there's a lot of content being made to showcase Hawaii. There's a lot of shows and films being shot out there, and which means work for people there. At the same time, a word that's coming to mind is intentionality. And I think with a lot of content that's being pushed out, it sometimes oversaturates the market. I mean, is it hard hitting? Is it something that's actually going to shapeshift and change the way you're thinking? And that's, I guess, some of the issue with commercialized work that is out there, is that it is very, on brand to what people want. But I really would like to see things that showcase the people of Hawaii, not just the background, not just the setting, because it is fantastic that they are making work there, but showcase the cultures, the different types of cultures, how they move, interact with one another within the scope of Hawaii. So I think there are just some things that I would change, but also hats off to all of the people that are representing Hawaii, putting their face out there, because it's needed. But let's make sure we do intentional work and are well educated, well informed, and treat this like a craft, because acting is a craft. So let's treat it with some respect.
Yeah, I was just gonna say pretty much the same thing about let's put the people forward rather than making it like a vacation travel brochure for Hawaii. Like, we all know Hawaii is gorgeous. You don't need to be reminded. Like, did anybody see Finding Ohana when it came out on Netflix a few months ago? I cried through most of it because that's my family. I had never seen. I mean, there's tons of movies and whatever that are set in Hawaii, and you see the beautiful landscapes, and of course, I get a little verklempt over it. But I had never before seen a show that focused on Ohana, like the concept of Ohana, and bringing in the cultural elements of the kuleana, the responsibility that you have to your family, to the land, to your ancestors, your kupuna, the scene shots, some big, beautiful scope shots that pull away and you see the land. The story is what matters. The story that is told by Hawaiians about being a Hawaiian family is what takes center stage. And it blew my mind. And it's Goonies, but in Hawaii, and that's fun and silly, and it's a kid's movie. I had never felt so seen. I had never felt so seen before. So more of that, and absolutely. And I sincerely hope that Doogie Kameāloha is focusing on that concept of it rather than wow, isn't it exotic that she's Hawaiian? If I never hear the word exotic again for the rest of my life, I will be a happy camper. Never want to hear it.
Yeah, it's really complicated. My uncle has been up on Mauna Kea multiple times, so I want to make sure that I stand, that I'm clear in terms of my solidarity in relationship to the state government as well as UH and the interesting, terrible dynamics in relationship to land ownership and the kuleana. And also I think the levels of pono that need, there's work to be done and the state is implicated in that. And I think it's important to recognize, and I have to say this, having lived in different states and like looking at the way that stewardship of the land happens, Hawaii is a leader in that arena, in terms of tourism and land management and the ways that Parks and Rec as a municipal function is integrated throughout each island, each county, each structure, right? And so what I think about, is not just the economic impact of things happening in Hawaii, because I agree with Barrie and Tex, like it's not a backdrop for so many of us, it is a centerpiece. And I think about the moment, that Hawaiian Airlines lands either in Kona or Hilo, depending on the rates. And the cabin opens and you take in that first breath of, land that is saturated in Aina. I was so blessed that I spent my 40th birthday next to Hilo Hospital at 3:00 in the morning while the lunar eclipse was going on. That made me remember, why I felt that way and how I was connected to the Aina. And so anytime, like it does not matter how good it is and how terrible it is. If Hawaii is featured, I will watch it because I have needs. That being said, I think it's powerful that we're beginning to see stories that are not centered on white bodies that happen to be in Hawaii. If I see, we might not want to hear exotic again, but if I see another Hawaii 5-0 remake,
Girl.
So there's that piece, right? There's that piece of it, and I think I have concern about like the disposability because of access and because of the desires that we might have. If you identify within the kingdom, or if you identify within the nation, or if you are a United States citizen, because I think there are also levels and layers of difficulty. Like my grandparents on the native side were very assimilationist, so there's a lot that we didn't have access to because they chose to be American in the absolute total sense.
It was a survival technique.
Yeah. And I'm still figuring that out in therapy. So thanks for the help. it's difficult to unwrap it because, there's like this recognition, like I, as part of the diaspora, get a chance to disconnect from those environmental concerns because I'm on different land. I am completely, while I get that things that happen in the middle of the Pacific will eventually affect me, just like that 1993 Vanilla Ice tape that I bought, when it finally made it over. Like those things will happen in time, but there is, the human complacency, the comfort of living daily life, that stability can lead me into a place where sometimes I scroll by my uncle's posts, too long, didn't read, moving on. And there's a level of obligation that I feel that I personally have that I maybe am not stepping into as powerfully as I could, or as intentionally, like Tex mentioned, that I could, to be in not just allyship, but to be in true solidarity.
Do you ever feel like you're not sure if you're making the most impact, whether because you are not on the land? Like, do you think that you could make more impact if you were back in Hawaii?
Yeah.
I struggle with that all the time.
Mm-hmm. I feel the call,
Yeah.
Like it's almost time for boomerang. I feel like I have more to do here. Like there's things that and I really have seen that concept of the list gets smaller as time has gone on. But yes, I think about it particularly as because my mom also happens to be here in North Carolina, so we pandemicked together. And so that relationship is one of the things that I want to make sure she gets home first. And so we're kind of working on that, because her, she has her list too. So there is very much a pull and a curiosity about, like, would it be different if I were there? Would I be different? Because I am when I am there.
Yeah.
That's the other piece. When I went back in 2018 was the first time that a lot of my friends, because I was on social and live streaming things, and it was the first time that friends here on the East Coast had seen that life and had seen that person, because that little local boy did not make it through public education stateside. It didn't happen because that kind of person is revolutionary and embodies danger in public educational systems here, and represents failure because you don't sound like everybody else. And so I welcome.
And that's why we're in therapy.
Yes. And it's great. Everyone should go to therapy.
Yes, thoroughly recommend.
Hell yeah. Self-care is the most important thing, people.
Yes,
so pushing Hawaiian narrative to the front. Yeah. And as I stated earlier, just hearing some of the stuff that's happening on the islands, it's heartbreaking. I'm hoping again that, with the success of shows, that it could just make people aware of what's going on, because it just saddens me about that. So speaking of stories and Hawaiian narratives that we want to see pushed, what are some that you would like to see, or what are stories that do you recall growing up with that we haven't seen yet, and just kind of just bringing it to the world? I just want to point out a show that I watched recently that kind of blew my mind, but it's controversial. The White Lotus. Have y'all watched the White Lotus on HBO Max?
No.
And the controversy.
I don't want to watch white people be bitches in Hawaii. Like,
yo, I just had to bring that up. Like, come on, we had like how many Hawaiian actors in there, but all these crazy white people. I watched it.
Are there actually Hawaiians in it?
There was a couple, but just like really, it was mainly just watching how white people go do crazy stuff. It was
no
crazy.
Thanks.
But yeah, it
good.
Was interesting. But like, yeah, there's why didn't you hire? And it could have been opportunity. I think it painted the Hawaiian in a nice light and just showed how insane these white people were. But just come on. But anyway, just along those lines, just like that's supposed to be representation for y'all. Just we filmed it there, but you really didn't give anybody any roles there. You had a couple. So what are some stories you'd like to see that really illustrates Hawaii?
I think they need to understand what's at stake. Like we've talked about how it's not a backdrop, it's a central figure. Hawaii it's a living, breathing thing. It's alive. There's no other way to put it. And when you center on its beauty and not on its struggles, you only get half the story. And I what story I would love to see is the overthrow of the kingdom. The number of people that I have said that to who are like, what do you mean? Who's Queen Liliuokalani? And I'm like, girl, sit down. Pop open that wine. We're going to have a little kiki. We're going to talk story.
I love it.
I want to see that. I want that on screen. Kanaka maoli everywhere. I need that story to be told, because it's not hidden, like it's not unknown, but it's not to the forefront. It kind of gets brushed aside. It's like, oh yeah, and then we invaded a kingdom. Don't worry about it. It's the 50th state. That story desperately needs to be told.
Well, you're in the right place, because it's actually one of the shows I'm developing.
Yes! Oh my God! I almost knocked over my ring light.
I'm like, wait for it. There it is. And I think the great part of creating this show, it's going to be a limited series, is that into this world, because yes, it does reflect the tragedy of what happened to a culture and a people. And I think in order to do that, we need to find things that other people can be brought into this world. And so it's fun for me because I'm finishing up this pilot with my writers. And it's already been shopped around to a few executives here in LA, which is, pushing it forward. But I'm excited because I think everyone is ready for this type of story. I think everyone's ready to hear just the flip side of what you were saying, the darker side of Hawaii, because yes, there are issues and things that we haven't even confronted. Do people know that there was a Hawaiian mafia? Is that something? Do people know the mo'olelo of so much you can get into?
Yeah.
But I think kind of just what Jeff said earlier, Kuli'i Kanu'u, strive for the summit. It's our job to be the ones to push the narrative forward, to push representation to the forefront. Imoi ki'i, inui kawai ava a ohe hope e ho'i mai ai. Move forward, my brothers and sisters. Drink of the bitter waters. There's no turning back. So absolutely.
Yeah, what a cup of truth, huh? Because I remember James Michener's Hawaii that talked about the overthrow of the kingdom. And then also, now to be fair, when Princess Kaiulani came out, that movie was nice. It had a treatment that I think spoke to a narrative that was crucial, and yet still,
but that was still underplayed.
Yeah, it was still in relationship to European structures, and and I don't think it was fully justifiably so. And I say that because I think one of the major contemporary issues that I see that I would love people to actually talk about, not like the Descendants did, is Hawaiian homelands, and to really talk about the conflicts that happen in families around that. Like the way that family dynamics are turned upside down because of the inherency of the power due to the access granted by a really shoddily constructed public policy. I want to see people really dig into, like, it's a way, because I work in peace and conflict studies, it's a way to capture real data without forcing traumatization on research participants. It's a way for documentarians to get out there and find the interesting family dynamics. There's like portions of my family that don't talk to each other because of Hawaiian homelands. It has nothing to do with their individual interactions, and then I have another family member who is related on the paternal side, who has done genealogy work that she won't share any of it because our branch is not in good standing with her, and I find that, at least in my family now, to be fair, my mom has 9 brothers and sisters. My dad has 4. There's 32 cousins just on mom's side for me. So I have a really big family, but I don't think that's abnormal in Hawaii. I don't think that, and I think the dynamics, because, like, one of the things that I think about all the time, and I don't know if you two get this, but the moment when you say I'm from Hawaii and everybody goes, why did you leave? And I have to say, okay, well, I will say this. What happens when you drive for 6 hours? You end up somewhere new. In Hawaii, you drive for 6 hours. You are back where you started, if not past where you started, because you went around the circle on Oahu on one of the interstates, which is funny because it's not actually interstate. That road, like I want stories that talk about those peculiarities that make us remember, and are almost like a purity litmus test. Like, did you actually live in Hawaii? Did you actually know this? Do you know where to get the best musubi? Is it really there?
But also, what's implied in that gatekeeping?
Right. I want those kinds of contemplations because we've already seen people make movies. It's like we've had access to the jobs, and that's not enough. It's not about making sure that contracts are out there for people. It's about making sure that the people are seen in the contracts, and that's the real issue. So I wish you luck, Tex, because from here it looks really scary, you know, as you shop.
No, this is it's with great honor that I feel like, you know, yes, there's a lot of pressure, but you know what? The time and the care is being put into it, lots of research, and it really does take a village to create a project like this. And that's inclusive of what we're talking about here today. So that just pushes that envelope forward. So thank you guys.
Your kupuna are very proud of you right now.
Thank all of us.
Super excited. I'm hoping nothing but the best for you, Tex, man. That's amazing. So with that being said, you're pushing it. You're going to take our stories out there. For everyone, what are some advice, recommendations to those that are watching this and getting inspired and seeing that representation? How can they, you know, do it? What are just some things that you've kind of blood, sweat, and tears learned on this journey to make it happen? Because as actors, we know it's a lot of no's before you get that yes. Just some advice, recommendations that you all have before we close up out of here.
Care about who you are. Don't, like what Tex was saying earlier about, don't box yourself in. If they're going to box you up, they're going to box you up and you can't do anything about that. That's absolutely true. You don't have to package yourself to feel like you can fit a particular mold, because you don't really know what they want. And most of the time they don't really know what they want. So like maybe this sounds cliche, but step into your truth, step into your oneness, make your kupuna proud. Yeah.
Yeah, I think connecting too, you know, like I have social media, connect to me, you know, like it's that piece of like knowing that, you know, people that are everywhere, so that there can be cooperative and collaborative efforts to construct the access that is necessary, you know, because depending on where you are in the journey, sometimes it's about getting in the room. So there's a lot of different things that means, you know, if it means formal training, if it means showing up, auditioning day after day, whatever that means, you know, there's that piece of it. And then there's landing the contract. Like that was my experience, was that it was very defined stages of what I was successful at, and recognizing that I had to take, you know, stage 1 and link it to stage 2, just as a little bit of Nerds of Color reference. You know, you got to build the journey to get the experience points to then rack up, you know, the treasure at the end of the quest. And so I made sure for me that the quests were small, manageable, and something that I could actually do. And so connecting with people, following up about them, asking questions, you know, knowing that you can build a network is one of the ways that I was able to kind of get in, because it mobilized people around me to reshape the landscape. So there were times that, you know, I was fast tracked to different rooms. You know, I got into the door and was moved to different rooms because I had different connections. It was not cronyism, because I still didn't get the contract. You know, it's not nepotism, because it didn't work out that way. But I think it's important to recognize that some of what I think comes with being not white is the challenge of not being in the default, right? So it is not just that they don't envision you in the story. It is that they didn't even know that you could be in the story. And Barrie mentioned it early on, you know, it's like there are critical questions that we need to ask. And I have found that asking them outside of the room is much better than trying to do it inside the room, because you'll get dismissed. So, you know, think about connections and where the revolution is for you. You know, where are the ways that you're going to use resistance? Where are you going to use collaboration? How are you going to continue to engage with other humans in these massive systems to really get what you need, that then contributes to this longer term vision of whatever it is that you're trying to do.
I love it.
Before I give any advice, I actually want to challenge all of Polynesia, because it's such a big diaspora, to look at our are leaders in the industry. The Rock, Taika Waititi, Jason Momoa. Look at them and embrace who they are. This is not crabs in a bucket. We're not here to pull each other down. We're here to lift each other up. And yes, with so much work out there, we have to be careful on what we're showing. But I celebrate these artists because it is not easy to forge a path that otherwise hasn't been forged for you. So hats off to them. And any advice that I have, I actually wrote it down. I wrote, treat your craft, whatever that is, whether it's singing, acting, dancing, whatever it is. Treat your craft and your artistry with openness, curiosity, exploration, and respect.
I love it. Oh man, this is so amazing. I'm absolutely inspired. I love how we can all connect and through our shared struggles and journeys and just have this space. Thank you, Mixed Asian Media Festival, all the organizers for putting this together. Before we leave out of here, as Jeff said, I would love to offer feedback and help support all of us, the people that are watching us. And I know Jeff, just you said yourself, you want them to reach out to you. I'm gonna pass it around again. If for the audio listeners, I'm sure they're gonna have the descriptive information wherever they post this on Mixed Asian Media Festival, how they can reach out to us. But for those that are listening to us, how can they reach out to you? How can they follow you all online? I'll go back to Barrie. If you can share your handles, if you'd like to put that out there.
I am on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as @Barrie Kealoha, B as in boy, ARRIE KEALOHA. I'm on TikTok, which is a sad millennial flex, @Hokuopio, HOKUOPIO. You're welcome. You're welcome. I just broke Jeff. I've gone viral a couple times, so I'm like really impartial.
Hey.
I get shamed because I just lurk, so.
Oh God.
So I'm on Facebook, Acting Aguiar. I also have a website, which is my name, Jeff Aguiar, JEFFAGUIAR.com. And then on Twitter and Instagram, I am Dog DZ Tricks. Dog does tricks, because that's what it felt like breaking into the industry was, can you do all the tricks and do what you need to do? And that's DAWGDZTRIX, because I want to make sure you're paying attention.
Yes. Tex.
And then for me, I guess I'm the millennial that doesn't have much social media. But my Instagram is TX. That's my first name, Tex. KTARIO, my last name. And then for Facebook, it's Tex, TX, K Tario, TARIO. I also have a website, same exact thing as everything else I've mentioned. KTARIO. And
branding. I like it. I like it.
Hell yeah. I love it. Shout out to all y'all, Jeff, Barrie, Tex. I'm definitely following you and gonna hit you all up to hopefully come on Nerds of Color and NRW and just show more love, man, because representation is so important. It matters so much. For me, Kuya, aka Patrick Michael Strange. You can follow me at Strange since 1977, as well as at Temple Far East. One of those is Twitter, one of those is IG. I started the TikTok, and I'm the over at TikTok, but I don't have much up there because millennial stuff, right? The Legend Kuya, Nerds of Color, the Nerds of Color on everything, and as well as the NRW and Unreleased Wednesday, where nerds rule the world, giving pop culture talk, and Show Pal Show, because I'm a very proud Filipino and where I rep all my Filipinos out there, and that's at Show Pal Show on everything. Anything else we have to plug before we go? Anything where we can see you guys at? For me, the trailer just dropped for Don't Look Up with Leonardo DiCaprio. My first big role out the gate, and without acting, I got back in. That just premiered as of today. So see me in December in Don't Look Up.
Great. You can watch the entirety of Island Girl on YouTube. Just search Island Girl Barrie Kealoha, and there it is.
Amazing.
All right.
Nothing
to have Tex. We're looking forward to your film. All the love, all the fingers crossed that it premieres. All the best. This was so much fun. You guys are amazing. Again, Hopefully we can do this again next year. We want this happen. Let everybody know, Mixed Asian Media Festival, you want it. If you want it, they'll bring it back. And I think they want to bring this back. And hopefully in person once we get past this pandy. It's been crazy, but this was so much fun. Blessed to hear all you guys and just share space. This was amazing. Thanks, guys.
Mahalo nui.
Thanks.